Hey guys, welcome to part two where I'll be talking about Mosa, okay? If you missed the first video, please ensure that you check that out. I talked about making the perfect puff puff. So in this video, I'm going to be addressing Mosa. What is Mosa? Now, Mosa is a fluffy, round, and sweet treat, which is also moist and like almost dense in texture, and that is how it's supposed to be. It's kind of like it gives this melt in your mouth type of vibe, and it's really sweet compared to puff puff. But then the sweetness isn't from processed sugar. The sweetness is from the key ingredients, which brings me to my number one disclaimer in making the perfect mosa. So there's a disclaimer that mosa is also called or is plantain puff puff. Well, it's not plantain puff puff. It's actually not made with plantain. Yes, it's banana, not plantain. Okay. Now, before I go ahead, I want to give you guys a backstory of how I really struggled with mosa making in my journey of making small chops, right? And so when I started making small chops, I went online, I searched for recipes, I searched for all manner of things to put me on the right track, right? And unfortunately, when it came to mosa, it was a serious struggle. One thing I noticed was all of the recipes I was coming across online, they were all using plantains, overripe plantains, right? And most of the ones I saw were using baking powder or baking soda or both in the recipe. And anytime I tried it, it was not just giving what it was supposed to give, because I had tried musa from other small chops vendors, right? I knew the texture, I knew what I was looking for, I knew what it was supposed to be like. But for some reason, it wasn't just working for me. You guys, I wasted resources. Like, I bought ingredients. I tried and tried and tried. I used overripe plantains, just ripe plantains. It did not come out. Like, I didn't know what the problem was. And at this point, I realized, you know what? I need expertise. I need someone's help, a professional, right? And I don't know where the audacity came from, but I reached out to vendors. So this is what I did. One day I picked up my phone. I went on Instagram. There were a couple of vendors I was following on Instagram, and these particular vendors I reached out to, I first of all went through their pages. I saw that they make mosa, right? And it looks like how it's supposed to look. And I said, you know what? I'm going to reach out to these people and just downright ask them to help my life, because I was struggling. And I reached out to, I think, 3 to 5 people. I can't really remember. Some of them didn't even reply me. And one replied, or rather two replied, and let me tell you what I wrote. I just said something like, oh, I introduced myself, because at the time I was still a student in university. So I was like, oh, hi, I'm Sally, I'm a student in University of Ilorin. I just started making small chops as an addition to my cake making business, and I've been struggling a lot with making mosa. I don't know if you can help me with a few tips or just pull me through on how to get it right. It's been a real struggle. I literally just like came clean, like, help my life, I'm struggling, and some of them did not reply me. I don't blame them for that, really. Like I said, I had the audacity from somewhere, it just came. One of them replied and said, oh, yes, we have professionals that can pull you through. You can just reach out to us on our WhatsApp number, and we'll have someone being sent to you to teach you. It's 20,000 naira. At that time, I can't remember what year that was, but it was before 2020. It was before the lockdown. And the person said that, and I'm like, well, I am not exactly looking for tutorials. Like, I'm looking for a freebie, just help me. But I I acknowledged the message and waited for the last person's response, which was my miracle, my helper. This person, God bless this woman wherever she is, I don't even know what to say. The woman was just really, really helpful. She has no idea the impact that she has made for me, like in my business, till this day. But anyways, she responded and she was like, "Oh, hey, that." First of all, she corrected me, which is why this is my first disclaimer, right? She corrected me and she was like, "It's not plantain puff puff. It's actually made with banana." Igbo banana, to be precise. So now, Igbo banana, I'll try to get a picture and put it here. I don't know how to describe the difference between Igbo banana and the other I don't know if I'll call that Yoruba banana, but there's this banana that is short like this. That it even comes in colors as well. You can see the red one, it's like not green, not yellow, like yellowish brown or brownish yellow. I don't know how to describe it, but there's a difference, right? The texture and the sweetness of the Igbo banana is just perfect compared to that other one. That other one has this kind of smooth, silky texture. Even in making smoothie, because there's this banana smoothie that I love to make. I noticed that when I make it with Igbo banana, it tastes amazing compared to the other type of banana. That other one has this more of a silky texture to it, and it's not as sweet as the Igbo banana, right? But the Igbo banana just has this perfect sweetness. Whether it's overripe, whether it's just ripe, it has this perfect sweetness. And so, yeah, that is the difference that I noticed. And when she corrected me on that, she went ahead to tell me how to go about it, which I will be sharing with you in this video. And she told me, first of all, you're going to get your Igbo bananas. Make sure they are overripe or at least softened bananas, not the firm ones. And then you would use either your fork or the back of the under of a bottle, this glass bottle, right, to mash the bananas. Now, you're not going to blend it. You're not going to blend it, okay? You're just going to mash it, okay? You're going to mash it up and you are going to have chunks that way. What you're looking for is little bits and chunks of banana. That is what gives the mosa that moist texture when you fry it. If you blend it smooth, you may not really get that vibe. I don't know how to explain it, but yeah, that's how it works. Okay, so she didn't give me a recipe. She didn't give me her recipe, right? She simply just told me how to go about it. She kind of like put me through on like my struggles. She corrected me on, thinking it was plantain and no, it's not, it's banana, right? And then she went ahead to tell me the ingredients to use, but not necessarily the measurements. So she was just like, oh, you're going to need this. And then she told me, for the flour, there's really no measurement for that. You're just going to add little bit of flour after mashing your bananas to make sure that it has some body, because if you just fry the bananas like that, you're getting oil. It's going to just soak oil. So the purpose of the flour is to kind of give it that body to not soak oil while frying and all of that. And so she also told me, oh, if you like some heat, you can add freshly blended peppers as well, scotch bonnet peppers to your mix to give it some sort of heat. If you do not, it's optional, right? And then sugar as well, that is processed sugar, white granulated sugar is optional. You don't need to add it, but in some cases, you may not be able to get overripe bananas. The purpose of overripe bananas is because it's overly sweetened. At that point, the sugar content in the banana is really high compared to when it's just perfectly ripe. So when you get a normal ripe banana, you're not able to get the overly ripe one, then you can add a little bit of extra white granulated sugar to just add to that sweetness a little bit, not to overwhelm it, not to overpower it, but just to add to that sweetness, because mosa is supposed to be sweeter than puff puff normally, okay? And with that piece of information that she gave me, thankfully, I'm a visual learner and I'm someone that once I set my mind to do something, I'm going to do it and I'm going to get it right. Okay. And so I took that piece of information and I tried just once. And this thing came out perfect. And I was like, oh my God, like I struggled with this thing. And finally, breakthrough. And so, yeah, I'm going to be sharing with you how I make mine. I still do not have a recipe, to be honest. I don't have like specific measurements for my mosa. But one thing that I did that helps me stay consistent despite not using a recipe is introducing yeast to the batter. Now, it's optional, right? Originally, yeast isn't added to mosa, okay? Mosa is supposed to have that dense texture. That is what gives it that moist texture in the mouth, right? But if you want to kind of balance the fluffiness to the moisture and just kind of stay consistent, especially if you do not use measurements, Then I would advise that you add yeast to your batter. Now you don't need to add so much. You can add as little as a teaspoon of yeast or half a tablespoon of yeast. That is what I use. And the yeast is just to kind of give it that extra assurance that maybe if you mistakenly added a little bit much more flour than you would have added, the yeast will help in fluffing it up, and it will still be fluffy and spongy. It won't be hard, because I noticed in my early days, after that first trial that I had and I got it right, subsequently there were inconsistencies in maintaining my mosa texture. Today it's perfect. Tomorrow it's either too sweet, or it's not fluffy enough, or it forms a hard shell. And everyone who has eaten good mosa knows that it does not have a hard shell. It's quite soft, right? And so I decided to introduce this, and trust me, this has helped me in maintaining that soft and fluffy and moist texture in my mosa. Although right now I am very, very used to the quantity of banana I use, the quantity of flour, sugar, and yeast that I use. Not exactly in measurement form, but I'm kind of already used to it depending on the quantity of mosa that I am making, right? I just, I'm used to it. And so for someone who is beginning, I would advise that you try first, okay? Take this advice, try first. And if don't get it right, if it is maybe too sweet, you know that, okay, next time you're going to cut down on the sugar, the added sugar. Now, mind you, I said sugar is not compulsory. If you're not using overripe bananas, then I advise that you add a little bit of more sugar. In some cases, you may even still need a little bit of sugar with your overripe bananas. It really depends on the quantity of mosa you're going for. So what I do is I peel my bananas, I mash them up with my cutlery, and then once it's well mashed, I add a little bit of white granulated sugar. Not too much, just a little bit, okay? I add a little bit of that. And then once that is mixed in with the mashed bananas, I add my blended pepper for a little bit of heat, to balance that sweetness. And then once that is done, I add in my flour. Okay, I add in my flour and I add in my yeast as well. And I mix. Now, you don't need to add water in your mosa. If you notice that after mixing in your flour and every other thing, the batter has the same consistency that your puff puff would have. That is another tip that I'm going to give that I used, right, in getting the perfect consistency every single time. I ensured that I mastered the consistency of my puff puff. So I know once I'm done mixing the batter, I know how it is. It's not runny, it's not thick, it's just there. And then for my mosa, I ensure that it matched the same energy, so to speak. And so I advise that you do that as well. It will really help you in achieving the perfect texture every single time, okay? And when you're trying this out, I advise that you actually measure and take note of your measurement so that you can get the perfect mosa. You may not get it right the first time. It happens, okay? Sometimes you have to try and try. I cannot count how many times I tried. With this mosa, when you're frying your mosa, you have to fry it on medium-low heat. Mosa takes much more time to cook than puff puff, and this is because of the bananas in it, okay? You do not want to fry your mosa and it cooks rather quickly. That is, the outside of the mosa browns very quickly. That way, the inside of your mosa is most likely still going to be raw or undercooked, and you do not want that. You want it to be perfectly cooked. So you cook it on medium-low heat. Your puff-puff, normally you would fry it on medium heat and you regulate often, but with your mosa, it has to be medium-low, okay? Take your time. Make sure you're constantly stirring to make sure that it's evenly browned all around it. And once it's done, your mosa is ready and it's perfect. As for getting the perfect shape of your mosa, it's basically the same thing as getting the perfect shape with your puff puff. And I would be leaving the link down below to the video I made on the 3 different methods on getting the perfect round shape when frying your puff puff, okay? And if you still do not want to use your hand, you can use a mini ice cream scoop, or you can use a dispenser that is being sold in the market. So we've come to the end of this video, guys. In my next video, I'm going to be talking about spring rolls and samosas, okay? And make sure you share this video to your loved ones, to people that you know would need these tips. And make sure that you leave a like, comment, and subscribe to my YouTube channel as well. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in my next video. Bye for now.